Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Oxnard Live. I'm your host, Daniel Chavez Jr. Tonight's guest is an organization that has been around part of Ventura County for a number of years, providing services to the community. And tonight we're going to learn a little bit more about the organization, its history, how it got started, the services that it offers, and the plans for the future. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Clayton, the Director of Rescue Mission, Ventura County. Welcome, Clayton. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Thanks so much, Daniel, for having me.
So, Rescue Mission, Ventura County, some know about it, some don't know about it. So tell us a little bit about the history. How did Rescue Mission get started, and what is its ultimate goal and mission?
Yeah, so our goal, one, it was started in 1972. So this next year will be our 50th anniversary of being able to serve the poor, underserved, the homeless, the addicted here in Ventura County. It was started by a couple who had also started the Santa Barbara Rescue Mission, a couple who really had a heart for those that are oftentimes overlooked, walked past, forgotten about. And so we have been here in Ventura County. We're since 72, we're a year round, and we were the first year round residential homeless shelter and residential treatment facility here in Ventura County. And so we're really excited about all that God has done in us and through us over the last 50 years. We are a faith-based, we have a couple of different aspects of what we do. One is being faith-based. We have homeless services. And so on a daily basis, we provide lunch and we provide dinner for those in the area who need food at that time. If they're needing clothing, if their clothes are tattered, or if they're just really dirty and they need another change of clothes, we provide that as well, and we meet those needs as well as any hygiene that they need. And so we pass that out during lunch and then during dinner as well here. And at dinner, we obviously have opened back up this week. June 15th was our first day of being able to invite our homeless, who we call line guests, into the facility so that they're able to sit down, and then we are able to serve them a meal with dignity, in humility, looking at them in the eyes and truly showing that we care about them. So we have that homeless aspect of what we do. And then we have the addiction recovery side of what we do. And so we have men that come in the program and they've been on meth for 10, 15 years. They've lived down at the river bottom because of drug addiction. They also come from alcoholism and different addictions, and they can come into our 10-month free life recovery program. Again, it's faith-based. They don't have to ascribe to any statement of faith, or they don't even have to have darkened the doors of a church in the past to be welcomed lovingly into that life recovery program. And there they get the tools that they need to deal with life in a constructive way, not a destructive way. Many times people have become addicted to certain things because of a trauma in their life, because of an unforeseen crisis, loss of a job, loss of a marriage, death of a spouse, death of a parent, death of a child that drove them to self-medicate. And then that became a slippery slope, and they never intended to become addicted, but they arrived at that place, and they're at the place to where they're willing to reach out and say, I need help. And we are here to not judge them, but we are here to lovingly help them. And so they're going to learn the tools to deal with conflict, to be able to navigate life. We're going to be able to assess where they are in their education development. A lot of the guys that come into the program, they didn't graduate high school. Some of them did. Some of them received their GED, but we're going to be able to put them on a track to receive their pre-GED or even their GED because we care about their education. They're also going to be receiving skills training so that they, once they graduate, can find that job that pays a wage for them to be able to provide for stable housing so that they can, one, reunite with their family if that's what's needed, but become a productive participant in the culture here and society here in Ventura County. And so those are the two aspects. And then the third aspect would be life outside of graduation. And we have transitional living for our graduates if they choose to take us up on that offer. And we see that as a continuation of the program here at Ventura County Rescue Mission. And so they can either have their private room or they can share a room if they want to reduce their program fees there. And it's anywhere from $200 to $400. And we're able to kind of walk alongside them as they re-enter life outside of graduation. We don't want anyone to walk alone. And so we believe it's not only important to walk alongside the men as they are here in the program, but also important to walk alongside them outside and after the program as well. So that's kind of our history a little bit and how we're structured in those three different positions. I would add with the homeless aspect, men can come into our emergency shelter when we do our dinner service, and then they can stay overnight. And then in the morning, about 5:30, we expect them to leave. Some of them have jobs, others are looking for jobs, and then they can re-enter back around dinner service the next evening.
Wow. Definitely a amazing history, nearly 50 years of providing these services to the community. Now, is it only based in the city of Oxnard, or are there other locations? Because when someone reads the title, Rescue Mission Ventura County, I'm assuming that it's open throughout the entire county, or is it just based in Ventura County?
It's based in Ventura County. We have one physical location for men, which is Ventura County Rescue Mission, where my office is here at 234 East 6th Street, North 6th Street, sorry. And then our corporate office is at 315 East A Street. But we also have a facility, our Lighthouse for Women and Children, which mirrors the same services that we provide for the men, but for women and children. And that's in La Colonia. And so women can come into that facility as well. There's an emergency shelter, there's case management, and then there's the life recovery program, and then there's the transitional living there as well. But when I said our corporate office, we are part of the Rescue Mission Alliance. And the Rescue Mission Alliance has Ventura County Rescue Mission, Lighthouse for Women and Children. They also have a rescue mission in Central Coast, a rescue mission in Victorville, a rescue mission in San Fernando Valley, and then a recovery program in Hollywood as well called Renewed Hope. And so we are 5 rescue missions, 6 thrift stores that helped fund the ministry and the mission of what we do here. But in Ventura County, you kind of teed things off with future strategy, like where we're going. And historically, we have had that physical footprint, uh, even though we're called Ventura County Rescue Mission, and men, women, and children from all of Ventura do come here. Our locations are in Oxnard. And so this year we are looking at expanding uh, first in relationship. And we're primarily going to be looking at two events that we do and looking at partnering churches and organizations to be the delivery system for our Thanksgiving meal that we do, that we serve, well over 1,000, a warm, hot, real Thanksgiving dinner, and looking at partnering with organizations within all the cities which comprise Ventura County to be the delivery system for that. And then another big event we do is our toy drive. Not only do we receive toys for our men, women, and children that are in program and their children, which is part of the restorative, a part of what we do for, for a man, one of our clients here in the program, even though they're here and they're not earning a wage, they don't have a job, for them to be able to provide a Christmas toy for their child. That's a big deal. For our women in the life recovery program and transitional living to be able to provide a gift for their children, that's a really big deal. But then outside of providing toys for our clients here at VCRM, as well as the Lighthouse for Women and Children, we also provide toys for children in our communities here in Oxnard that may be lower income communities, but there are those pockets of lower income communities that are all throughout Ventura County. And so we are also going to be partnering with those churches to be the delivery systems for those toys. We don't want to necessarily have a lower income area in Fillmore see Ventura County Rescue Mission as the one who provided a gift, or the generous donors provide a gift for that community. But we do want them to be able to look at that local church or that local organization to provide their needs that are already in that community. And so when it comes to the holiday time of year, the Thanksgiving meal and the Christmas gift, that's just a great entry point to build relationships so that we can be able to assess and see if this is a future partnership that can help us expand into all the corners of Ventura County.
You brought up a number of great points, but there's two that I want to just talk about. You brought up in regards to the power of giving a gift, from a parent that is part of the programs or that's somewhat connected to the rescue mission, that ability to be able to give a gift to their child and how powerful that is. Me as a father, I know that feeling of, being able to give a gift and seeing your child light up because they got something, not necessarily the value of it, but just the fact that they received something from their parent, I think is extremely powerful. And I commend you and your team and then the history of the organization for being able to accomplish that.
Yeah.
I also want to talk about the two. Obviously, the toy drive is one event and the other event is the Thanksgiving. And we know Thanksgiving is traditionally a very family oriented holiday. And, there are many individuals, and there was a term that you use for the homeless. You call them line guests, not necessarily homeless. You're not categorizing them as homeless, which I think is commendable because it is, as you mentioned, a community that is overlooked or walked past or not acknowledged. So to refer to them as a guest, I think is it's humane to be able to do that as opposed to homeless. But being able to redirect people's attention to their local churches or organizations within the communities, I think is great, as opposed to saying, well, Rescue Mission Ventura County did all of this you're working with these organizations and these faith-based churches to be able to provide those services so that people look to them for assistance and guidance. So I just wanted to make mention of that I think it's commendable, and it's great that these opportunities exist. But for organizations, how would they be able to assist, whether it's collecting toys or being able to assist Rescue Mission in delivering those toys? What is the process for those individuals to be able to participate, or when it gets closer to the Thanksgiving holiday, for them to be able to donate or assist?
You can go to our website, which is bcrescuemission.org, and you can click on the link to volunteer. And then there's a process that we have to where you fill out an online application. Then our volunteer coordinator will reach out to you. During COVID, we had a lot of stipulations and a lot of requirements. We had a couple of outbreaks here. Even though we didn't see outbreaks nationwide in any significant form in unsheltered, in the homeless population. What did happen is once they came into a residential setting, then it actually was more easily spread. And so we became a remote testing site through the county, had our own test kits. And I mean, we had to isolate, we had to quarantine. I think at one point I had probably 8 men and 3 staff who actually had not tested positive for COVID. And so we had limited volunteer capacities, greatly limited during that aspect. And so for those volunteers who could come in a very selective way, they had to do COVID training, just as we would an employee of the organization. Masks, double masks, gloves, all of those things. And so there still is a COVID criterion that we have to follow, even with our volunteers, but all of that is initiated. That whole process is initiated by going to our website and clicking on that volunteer link. There are opportunities collecting toys for the Christmas giveaway, collecting turkeys or dropping turkeys off, or things of that nature. But now that we are beginning to serve our line guests inside, there's obviously great volunteer opportunities because, like I said, they come in and they're able to sit down at a table, and then we serve them, we bring them the food. And last year, even in the midst of COVID, we served over 185,000 meals here at Ventura County Rescue Mission. And the prior year, just to see how that compared, because it didn't slow us down a lot. COVID didn't slow us down a lot. The prior year, we served a little over 200,000 meals. So I think it was around 205,000 meals the prior year, which had a part of COVID, but the majority of that year was pre-COVID. And so you can just see when it comes to serving meals, there's always an opportunity to volunteer. When we do what we call our grab and go meals, then oftentimes those are sack lunches, or those are meals that are prepared in our state-of-the-art commercial kitchen. And so it takes volunteers coming into the kitchen, being trained on knife skills if that's necessary, but combining those elements that make a sack lunch, or actually making the sandwiches, putting together the meals so that they can be served at lunch and then serving at dinner. But it's all the prep. It's just like your house. Before you can sit down and eat, there's a lot of work that goes in to the pre-meal. And so that all takes volunteers to make.
I want to ask you about that because your organization is very volunteer base oriented, and like many nonprofit organizations, that's typically the thing. COVID, like you mentioned, really change that, really shut down the number of people that are allowed to be on properties unless it was absolutely essential. Are you recovering now that the June 15th, even though it's only been 2 days, but is the organization recovering, having that interest again for volunteers to come back, gearing back up, opening back up, still with guidelines, but is it a good rebalance that is occurring right now? Or are you still feeling the residuals of the pandemic?
You're right. It has been, just a couple of days. However, we were able to, we were able to plan for the reopening. So for probably the last 2 months, whenever Governor Newsom came on and said that the target date was June 15th, then I communicated to the team that that would be our target date for our first in-house line guest feeding. And so we've been planning for that. And so part of that planning has been reaching out to organizations. Some of those are churches, others are corporations that have volunteered in the past, who are fairly familiar with what we do and how we do it here at VCRM, reaching out to them and lining up volunteers to be prepared for go time, which is this week. I don't know what things will look like 2 weeks from now. We're doing the best we can. Our volunteer coordinator, Michael Lee, used to do ops for the city of Oxnard. He's doing the best he can, and he's knocking it out of the park. In my view, he's doing a great job. My whole PR team is really reaching out, going through, finding companies, corporations that haven't volunteered here before, may not know about what we do, to invite them to come take a tour, to invite them to come and to volunteer, so that they get a feel of what we do and how they can partner with a local organization that's meeting a need. There's 1,700 homeless in Ventura County. Over 70% of that 17,000 became homeless in Ventura County. And so they are here, and so we have a great need to meet. And it's my opinion. One, I'm a big fan of what we do, or I probably wouldn't be here. But it's my opinion that the private sector has a great opportunity to lift some of the burden from the city of Oxnard and the county of Ventura by partnering together to help remedy this need we have to help move people off the streets, to train them, to help them find gainful employment, but to give them the tools to do case management, to really help them become upwardly mobile in our culture. But we're doing the best job we can right now. We can always use more volunteers. That's always a need, as you rightly assessed. I mean, we are a nonprofit, and that's the engine. Our donors and our volunteers are the engine, because everything that we provide here, if we were private, some addiction recovery facilities, they can run $30,000 and upwards a month. And we provide what we do here at no charge. And we pour into these men, women, and children. And so it's a joy. And once people come, they take a tour, they see all of the different components. They kind of, wow, I had no idea. But then it kind of pricks their heart, and they're like, you know what? I can make a difference, even if it's making a bologna sandwich, if it's putting a Capri Sun in a paper sack, if it's drawing a happy face on a paper bag, if it's serving someone a meal, if it's teaching life skills, if it's teaching budgeting and financial matters. Recently, Bank of America partnered with us via Zoom, and they started doing some just budgeting classes just to pour into our men as well as our women over at the lighthouse, and we're very grateful for that. A volunteer just came in who lives in the same neighborhood as me, and showed me a picture of a huge rattlesnake and said, "Hey, when you, your wife, and your 6 kids are out watching, be prepared for the rattlesnakes." But he's here not only to help serve meals, but then he'll teach money management later tonight. And that's part of the program. He teaches it over at the lighthouse as well. But we want to give individuals these tools, but there are so many different ways to volunteer and to get plugged in here. But, that was a long answer to your short question, but in part, we'll see what the volunteer rebound looks like, probably more accurately in a month or two.
I just want to make a comment that just hearing you talk, about that answer, I hear the passion that you have to be part of this organization, and how it is doing real good for the community, getting people back on the right track that need that assistance.
Mhm.
Did you notice, your organization notice an increase of homeless during the pandemic? As you mentioned earlier, people lost their jobs, as a result of the pandemic, went through things in their personal lives, divorces, deaths, whatever it may be. Did you see an uptick in the number of homeless individuals that were seeking your organizations for assistance?
That's a great question. And we didn't see a huge uptick for this reason. The non-evict mandate. So landlords were prohibited from evicting their tenants for not paying rent during COVID. What I do believe, and what others do believe in this same sector, is that when all of that ends, then we will see an uptick. Not only that, but one of the things that's beautiful about the city of Oxnard is that we have people coming in from other countries to make a better life. And so with some easing of border entry into the US, oftentimes individuals migrate to where other individuals from their same community, their same country also live. Oxnard's the perfect place for that. And so I think we're kind of with those two factors, with people potentially being evicted, as well as more people coming into the country. I believe that we will see an influx and a rise in the services that we provide. Some of it won't be the nature of addiction recovery. I believe that some people will feel desperate. They may feel hopeless, and they may turn to alcohol or drugs to self-medicate to no longer feel that way. But we're also going to have individuals who aren't addicted, who can find jobs, who can be gainfully employed, but based off of life circumstances, they have found themselves temporarily homeless. And so we're looking forward to that and looking at what we can provide. In the past, we provided a program that we don't currently, but it was called Fresh Start. And it was for men, women, and women who did not need the full life recovery program to overcome an addiction. They just needed a fresh start. They lost their job. They lost their housing. Maybe they were living with a relative who passed away. They were relocating to a community and were looking for a job but needed housing. And so that helped meet those needs. And so we have already begun the discussions of relaunching potentially that fresh start aspect. But no, we didn't see a huge rise during COVID. We do believe that we will see that. And those are some ways that we're planning for that. When and if it arises.
You make again a lot of great points in regards to your answer, and I agree with you. And I agree with all those individuals that think the same way, that we will see an uptick or some challenges that come across our communities as the um, COVID rules start to die out and evictions start to reoccur again. It's unfortunate. And I agree with you that there should be more of the private sector jumping in to assist, to create these public-private partnerships, to be able to assist the community, because these are organizations that are right here in this city. You know, they do business here, and contributing and assisting is always beneficial. And I'm glad you mentioned Bank of America, that they were providing some financial training or resources for the men and women of the organization, because I think that's, very beneficial. I want to jump back real quick about the programs, the addiction program. You mentioned that is a program that gets individuals back on track, the detox, that gets them with their pre-GED or GED, and then they can move into a transitional housing option. 200 to 400. Is that monthly? Is that weekly? Or how is that broken down?
That would be monthly, and we call those program fees. We don't require rent or any payment like that because we're a 501c3, and so we don't look at it in that lens. What we look at it as, because it costs far more than that amount of money, that program fee that is contributed. But what is important is it's teaching them and getting them prepared for having to pay rent and to budget for that. So that's part of that. The boots hit the ground, the rubber hits the road post graduation, and we're getting them prepared because they can stay in our transitional living, both at BCRM and the Lighthouse, for 2 years max. And so sometimes we have space depending on the number of graduates we have coming through and things of that nature. Sometimes we can push that out if we see that it's needed and necessary. It's all our potential bed availability and the need and the way those kind of meet and work together in the middle.
So before, ladies and gentlemen, if you're just tuning in, we're speaking with Clayton, who is the director of the Rescue Mission of Ventura County, as an organization that has been part of the city of Oxnard, Ventura County, for nearly 50 years. We're talking about the services that are being offered through the organization. You said that it was a 2-year max and it depends on bed availability. Is it very similar to the RAIN program in Camarillo? Because they kind of have something similar, that they kind of have like a 2-year max that they can live in the transitional housing, but that family groups are able to stay together. Is there an option with the rescue mission that if a family becomes homeless, that they're able to stay together, or are they separated?
Yeah, that's a great question. We have a great partnership with RAIN, and we refer families actually to RAIN if our family shelter, transitional living, and our family shelter really is occupied. Right now, it's currently full. And so we have really one family shelter that we utilize between VCRM and Lighthouse. That really maxes things out. And so outside of that, when it comes to a family staying together in the emergency shelter, we refer to RAIN. Our mission in San Fernando Valley on Canby is all family shelter. And so it is a master plan community, and we can also refer individuals and help basically move them up there if they're willing to the San Fernando Valley area. Oftentimes it just depends on proximity to where someone is wanting to either reestablish roots or put down roots. And so not everybody's okay with relocating to the valley.
Yeah, and definitely not right now since it's reaching over 100 degrees out there,
I'm telling you.
unfortunately. I think that's great. That's an awesome opportunity. The the homeless individuals that come in through your lines to get the meals, to get the lunch, to get the dinners, do any of them ever take the initiative to say, you know what, I want to be able to get on the right path and transition out of the life of homelessness? And because it's not a choice. People don't choose to be homeless. Nobody wakes up one day and say, I want to be homeless. There's factors that play into that. But have they transitioned out of that lifestyle and then get into becoming, productive citizens of society again?
I applaud you for seeing the plight of someone who is currently homeless. It's not a choice, and it is very complicated. Even getting consensus on defining what homelessness is, because some people would say a homeless individual lives at the river bottom. Well, I can take you, and every other Wednesday we're doing outreaches at the river bottom. We're taking hygiene kits, we're taking food, we're taking water, and we're trying to find that balance between providing more comfort for them to continue to live at the river bottom and bringing them into the life recovery program. And that's always hard. In fact, as a staff, we're going through a study now called When Helping Hurts. And that's just a difficult line. But speaking of the river bottom, we had an individual who was on meth for 15 years. The last 5 years, he was living at the river bottom. He was homeless. Some would say he was chronically homeless. Yet he came, he received meals. He thought he'd give the life recovery program a chance. 3 weeks ago, after he had graduated, after he had received those tools, after he received the spiritual training and the discipleship, after he had passed all of his exams and his training to get his truck driver's license, he pulled up right outside my window on 6th Street in his big rig. He came and he knocked on my door. He wanted me to go and sit in his big rig in the driver's seat. And he was driving for a trucking company that's just down the street from where we are here on 6th Street. And he received his rig when it had 67 miles on it. And it was one that had a suite with a bunk bed in it. And he was telling me about his truck route, and he was showing me his logbook and his GPS and how it worked and all of these things. And he started out making $66,000 a year as a truck driver. And I tell you that story, one, because it's fresh. It's just happened. But here is someone who many would have looked past, looked over, who would label he can't be productive in society. He's been homeless. He's been on meth for too long. 15 years, grew up in Ojai, had a loving mother and father. Drugs took him to that place of being without walls and living that life. But I guarantee you, Daniel, if I brought him in my office right now, which I can't because he's on the road in the US somewhere, but if I brought him in office, you would talk to him and you wouldn't know that about him. When he drops off the goods that he's moving from location to location, I guarantee you nobody working a dock anywhere would ever know that he was living on the streets and living in the river bottom for 15 years on that. But he's now free. He has the tools that he needs, and he is a productive part of society. Not only that, but I could bring guys in my office that now work for us who came through the program, and they are our success stories. Our house manager, our guest services, we have an admin, so on and so forth. Men that came through the program. And I could take you to individuals at the Lighthouse as well. Women who came through the program who are our success stories, who are walking billboards to how this program really does work and it really can transform someone's life. In fact, recently, Daniel, we've been talking about the fact that our program, we call it Life Recovery Program. But we've thought about changing the name from Life Recovery Program to Life Transformation Program. Because really that's what we're all about. We don't want them to go backwards. We want them to recover and restore relationships. But there's often aspects of their life we don't want them to recover. We want them to be transformed. The Bible tells us, in Romans 12, 1 and 2, be transformed by the renewal of our minds. And so we want to lay that foundation, and we believe in God's word. We believe the Bible is God's word. We make no exception to that. No, we don't pull any punches or hide that at all. We don't force that down anyone's throat. Like I said before, we lovingly walk alongside people. But there are success stories all over this place that of individuals who have come through the Life Recovery Program. So it's really cool. I was, I had my first church when I was 19 years old back in 1994, and I was fourth generation pastor. Moved out to Camarillo to help a church. Wasn't the right fit, and there were some things that were going on, and so it just became important for me to step away. But when I stepped away, I had a wife and 6 kids that had relocated from Texas, where I was a lead pastor. And so, 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, I was standing in food lines to provide for my family. I had helped launch ChristianMingle.com, was on the national board till it grew to 16 million. I had been a singles pastor in Orange County of 19,000 member singles ministry and all of these things. And all of a sudden I find myself without a job here in Ventura County, and I couldn't provide for my own family. And I was hurt, confused. And so I had to stand in food lines just to get food. And I'm standing in food lines next to those who are homeless and have fallen on bad situations. And then I was like, you know what, we'll start our own ministry, and then I will find a job. I was a driver helper for UPS. I delivered cakes. I painted houses, moved pianos, did whatever I could do. And then was offered an opportunity in the financial services. And so I took my SIE, Series 7, 66, NMLS, insurance, received all those licenses within about 120 days, and was employed at Morgan Stanley here in the tower in Oxnard. And then I would work with the financial advisors in the Woodland Hills office as well, just starting off as a wealth advisor associate. Starting over though. And then in the midst of that, my pastor knew that the director here was retiring. And so he sent me a text, and that's kind of when my whole world changed. And this became 24/7, what I eat and breathe. And it's the exact opposite end of the financial spectrum. But people's lives are being transformed every single day. And it is so rewarding. This is messy work. It's not for everybody. It's difficult. Some people will choose to donate for years before they may come and volunteer, just because they may have an aversion to it. They may be fearful. They just may have a lot of different emotions that are tied with thoughts that they have. And that's okay. We respect that. It isn't for everyone. But when you see a mom be reconciled with a child, CPS. Sometimes moms give birth to children and they've never been able to really hold them. I'm telling you, there's nothing greater to be able to know that that mom and that baby are going to be able to grow up together, to see a husband and a wife, to see an adult child and parents be reunited, trust that was broken be restored. I'm telling you, I have an addiction problem, but my addiction is now to watching these lives being transformed day in and day out. It's a beautiful thing. Kind of rambled about my story, but that's kind of my background that leads me to this place, and being able to see what I see on a daily basis and what other people are able to see who volunteer here is it's just a beautiful thing.
No, and I appreciate you sharing that because that speaks volumes. And I appreciate you sharing the story about the gentleman that got a commercial license and now is a semi truck driver. I myself am a commercial license holder. I drive for LA Metro, and I can honestly tell you, being able to pass the written exams, to be able to pass the skills, the driving, it is not easy. So I commend that gentleman for being able to accomplish that. Everybody thinks being a commercial operator is so easy. No, there are 4 parts of the exam itself that you have to accomplish on top of the written exams that you have to accomplish. If you transport hazard materials, you have to do a hazard. You have to do a passenger. If you do passengers, you need your commercial license. And then you need a Class C license if it's not within the year of altering. So I commend him from doing that. And I commend you for your life journey that you took to get you to this point. And I agree with you. Being able to see those individuals reconnect after broken history or very traumatic histories, being able to see them come together, I believe, is absolutely a beautiful thing to witness. And I'm a little jealous that you get to experience that on a daily basis. And hopefully one day I'll be able to visit the rescue mission and speak to these individuals, because hearing those stories of individuals transitioning from a life of homelessness or a life of addiction to realizing in themselves that a change needs to occur, and having the rescue mission support them in that journey is great. And I like the fact that you're changing the title of the life recovery program to life transformation, because it is a transformation from one thing to another. We see it in daily life. We see it in our ecosystems. And a butterfly, it starts as a caterpillar and then it turns into a butterfly. It's a transformation. So I appreciate you bringing that up. Ladies and gentlemen, again, if you're just joining us, we're speaking with Clayton, who's the director of Rescue Mission Ventura County. Clayton, I appreciate you joining us, and we can literally continue this conversation for another hour. Just such great information that's coming out, and I really appreciate you taking the time. Are there any final words or final comments that you just want to be able to provide for the public, or any other events or ways for volunteers to, be part of the rescue mission?
I want to answer your very first question. I answered it in part, but I want you to think of these 3 R's, and I want your audience to remember these 3 R's because they really synthesize what we do here. We provide refuge, recovery, and restoration for men, women, and children in Ventura County. And so that's really important. And so when you think of the homeless aspect of what we do, the refuge, when you think of the life recovery program, think about recovery, and then you think about the reassimilation. That's the restorative, the restoration. And so I really love that. And I think that it's easy for people to kind of, oh, okay, I get that, because it also is that continuation, that spectrum of coming in, refuge, and then recovery, and then restoration. So it is that continuum. But not only with our website, getting plugged in, becoming a volunteer, filling out those applications on our website, But we also have social media platforms in our Instagram. Lighthouse, you can search that for Instagram as well as Facebook, and friend us. Reshare posts, and those stay really current. And then VC Rescue Mission, you can find that, search that, Instagram, Facebook, Ventura County Rescue Mission. You can just search those titles, and you'll be able to link up with us. And what we try to do on our social media platforms is tell the story, communicate the narrative, tell the story of lives that are being changed, show images, show video of people that we humbly and lovingly serve and walk alongside. And so in a day in a cancel culture world where it seems really divisive, we really have the opportunity to come together around this issue of homelessness and addiction recovery. We may not always agree with methodologies. Some people may have an aversion that we're faith-based, yet it is very uplifting. The stories are encouraging, they're inspiring, they're really what this country should be all about. And what our city is all about, what our county is all about. We have great relationships, both at the city level, at the county level. And so we're excited about our new chapters opening up post-COVID for people to get involved, for people to get plugged in. And then if people want to give, like I said earlier, if somebody doesn't feel like they are ready to volunteer, maybe they don't have the time. Well, they can choose to give and donate, and we are extremely grateful for that. We don't take any money from the city. We don't take any money from the state at all, and all of our ministries are funded through our thrift stores. So if people have items they're wanting to donate, you can donate to the Oxnard Bargain Center, to our super thrift here in Oxnard. And then when those items are sold, that money supports the missions that we have. But we have the thrift stores, and we do have some grants from private foundations and corporations that choose to give. And then we have the private donations of people like you and me, giving $2.17, which is what provides one meal, to $21.70, which will provide 10 meals, and so on and so forth. And so there are always ways that you can partner with us at whatever level is appropriate for you to participate in the work of Ventura County Rescue Mission and Lighthouse for Women and Children.
Awesome. Thank you again, Clayton, for all the information. Again, I can continue this conversation for at least another hour. Just a lot of great information that's coming out. And for our viewers, visit vcrescuemission.org, explore their website, find out ways that you can be able to contribute, whether it's a monetary or the time, be able to help and provide this change. As you heard just a little bit ago, there are success stories, and they are occurring, especially with a lot of services that are being provided. And again, it is a nonprofit, so there's not these millions and millions of dollars that are being poured into this organization. This is literally volunteer and donation operated and run. Thank you again, Clayton. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Clayton, Director of Rescue Mission Ventura County. Be sure to join us next week as we welcome back the team of TEDx Oxnard. We'll find out what happened after their main event and what events they have moving forward. That is all right here on Oxnard Live. Be sure to visit our website at oxnardlive.net. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on social media. And I'm your host, Dan Chavez Jr., and this is Oxnard Live, all live.